I want you to think about the last time you had a cup of coffee after 2 in the afternoon. Maybe it was yesterday. Maybe it's something you do every single day. A cup after lunch, another one around 3, maybe a half cup at 5 to power through the evening. Feels harmless, right? It's just coffee. But here's what I need to tell you right now. That afternoon cup, the one you've been drinking for years without a second thought, may be doing something to your brain that no doctor has ever warned you about in plain terms. Not immediately, not dramatically, quietly, over months, over years, over decades. There is a chain reaction that starts the moment caffeine enters your body in the afternoon, and it ends in a place that most of us are terrified to even say out loud: dementia. I'm not here to scare you out of your morning coffee. I'm not here to say coffee is poison. In fact, I'll tell you something that might surprise you. The right coffee at the right time may actually protect your brain. And the research backs that up. But there's a specific window, a specific hour. After that hour, everything changes. And I'm going to show you exactly where that line is, what happens when you cross it, and most importantly, what you can do starting today to protect your brain. My name is Dr. Daniel Hayes, and in my years of working with older adults, one of the most consistent things I've seen is this. The smallest daily habits, the things you do without thinking, are often the ones with the biggest consequences. Not the dramatic ones, not the obvious ones, the quiet ones, like that afternoon cup of coffee. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you are going to look at your daily coffee routine differently, and that one shift could be one of the most powerful things you do for your brain health. Let's get into it. Before I explain the science, and I'm going to keep it simple, I promise, I want to tell you about a woman named Margaret. Margaret was 71, retired school teacher, sharp as a tack. She'd been doing crossword puzzles since the 1980s, knew every grandchild's birthday by heart, and still balanced her own checkbook by hand every month. She also drank coffee, and she drank it the way a lot of people her age do. A cup first thing in the morning, a cup after lunch, and a half cup around 4 o'clock. She said coffee was one of life's simple pleasures, and she wasn't about to give it up. About 3 years ago, Margaret started noticing things. Small things at first. She'd walk into her kitchen and forget why she went there. She'd lose her train of thought mid-sentence. She'd wake up at 3 in the morning, wide awake, heart pounding a little, unable to get back to sleep. Her doctor checked her thyroid. Normal. Checked her blood pressure. Fine. Ran some standard blood work. Nothing alarming. Everyone, including her, chalked it up to getting older. But there was something nobody asked, nobody looked at. Something so ordinary, so everyday, that it flew completely under the radar. What time are you having your coffee? When I finally sat down with Margaret and we went through her whole day, hour by hour, something clicked. That 4 o'clock half cup. It wasn't just a habit, it was the thing that was stealing hours of her deep sleep every single night without her realizing it. And those stolen sleep hours? That's where the real danger was hiding. I'm going to explain exactly what that means in a moment. But first, I need you to understand something about how caffeine actually works in your body, and I'm going to explain it as simply as I possibly can, because this is where everything starts to make sense. Most people think caffeine works by giving you energy. That's not quite right. It doesn't create energy, it blocks the feeling of tiredness. Here's a simple way to think about it. Your brain has a built-in sleep pressure system. All day long, as you go about your life, thinking, talking, moving, your brain builds up a natural chemical that makes you feel sleepy. Think of it like a sand timer. The longer you're awake, the more sand fills the bottom, and the sleepier you feel. Caffeine works by blocking the signal that reads that sand timer. It doesn't empty the sand, it just covers the clock. The tiredness is still there. Caffeine just makes your brain temporarily unable to read it. Now here's where it gets important for you specifically. Caffeine has what scientists call a half-life. That's just a fancy way of saying how long it takes for your body to get rid of half of it. For a healthy young adult in their 30s, caffeine has a half-life of roughly 5 to 6 hours. But here's what almost nobody tells you. After age 60, your body processes caffeine more slowly. The half-life gets longer, much longer. It can stretch to 7, 8, even 9 hours in older adults. Which means if you drink coffee at 3 in the afternoon, a significant amount of that caffeine is still active in your system at 10 or 11 at night. And it's still blocking your brain's ability to read its sleep signals, just when you need your brain to be winding down. You might fall asleep. You might even feel like you slept okay. But what's happening inside your brain is something else entirely. I want to tell you something that very few people outside of research circles know, but that I believe every person over 60 needs to understand. During deep sleep, the most restorative kind of sleep, your brain does something remarkable, something it cannot do at any other time of day. It cleans itself. Your brain has its own cleaning system. It works almost like a pressure washer, flushing out waste products that have been building up throughout the day. One of the most important things it flushes out is a protein that, when it accumulates, becomes one of the key drivers of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. When you sleep deeply and fully, that cleaning system runs at full power. The waste gets flushed. The brain gets a fresh start each morning. But when your sleep is disrupted, when caffeine interferes with your ability to reach that deep, restorative stage, the cleaning system doesn't get to run properly. The waste stays, it accumulates, And over time, not overnight, not in a week, but over months and years, that accumulation builds up in places it shouldn't be, creating the kind of damage that's been directly linked to memory loss, cognitive decline, and dementia. A study from Washington University School of Medicine showed this in plain terms. Sleep deprivation increases levels of a specific protein associated with Alzheimer's. And when sleep continues to be disrupted night after night, that protein begins to spread through the brain in a way that accelerates damage. Think about that. You're not forgetting where you left your keys because you're getting old. You might be forgetting because your brain's cleaning crew wasn't allowed to do its job last night, because caffeine was still in your system, telling your brain to stay on alert long after you fell asleep. And this isn't a one-time problem. If you're drinking coffee after a certain hour every single day, this is happening to your brain every single night. So where exactly is the line? When do you need to stop drinking coffee to protect your sleep, and through your sleep, your brain? Here's what the research says, put simply. The strongest evidence suggests that you should stop drinking caffeine at least 6 hours before you go to bed. Let me make that practical. If you typically go to bed around 10 at night, then 4 in the afternoon is already pushing it. And if you go to bed at 9, then anything after 3 in the afternoon is in the danger zone. But here's the thing that surprised even me. 6 hours is the minimum. Given that older adults metabolize caffeine more slowly, some researchers suggest the safe cutoff for people over 60 is closer to noon or 2 in the afternoon at the very latest. Not because caffeine is completely gone by then, but because you need enough time, enough runway, for it to fall to a level where it stops interfering with your deepest, most protective sleep. One study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine looked specifically at caffeine taken 0, 3, and 6 hours before bedtime. Even the group that took caffeine 6 hours before bed showed measurable disruption to sleep quality, less time in deep sleep, more fragmented rest. They thought they were fine. Their sleep felt okay. But the machines measuring their brain activity told a different story. That's the thing about this problem. You often can't feel it happening. Margaret couldn't feel it. She thought she slept just fine, until we looked more carefully and realized she was waking up multiple times through the night, spending almost no time in the deep sleep her brain needed, and then waking up groggy and foggy every morning with no idea why. Now here's why this matters even more specifically for people over 60, and why the same habit that might be fine for your 40-year-old daughter could be genuinely dangerous for you. As we age, two things change in ways that make this problem much more serious. The first is that, as I mentioned, your body takes longer to clear caffeine from your system. What leaves a 35-year-old's body in 5 hours might take 8 or 9 hours to leave yours. That's not a character flaw, it's biology. Your liver processes things differently after 60, and that means the cutoff that works for younger people doesn't work for you. The second change is about the sleep itself. As we get older, we naturally spend less time in deep sleep. A 25-year-old might get 2 hours of deep, restorative sleep in a single night. By the time you're 70, that might be down to 30 to 45 minutes under ideal conditions. Now here's why that's so critical. That deep sleep is the window when the brain's cleaning system runs. When you're young and you get 2 hours of it, caffeine might steal 30 minutes and you still have 90 minutes left to do the job. But when you're 70 and you only have 45 minutes of deep sleep to begin with, and caffeine steals even half of that, the cleaning system barely runs at all. Night after night, month after month, year after year. The waste builds up, the proteins accumulate, and slowly, imperceptibly, the risk climbs. This is not a theory. Research published in journals including Nature Neuroscience and the Annals of Neurology has shown the direct, measurable connection between poor sleep quality in older adults and the accumulation of the very proteins associated with dementia. You are not powerless against this, but you have to know the enemy first. At this point, I know some of you are thinking, well, can I just switch to decaf after noon? That's a smart question, and the honest answer is, decaf is not completely caffeine-free. A typical cup of decaf still contains about 2 to 15 milligrams of caffeine. A regular cup might have 80 to 100, so decaf is significantly lower, but it's not zero. For most people over 60, decaf after noon is a reasonable compromise. It won't carry the same risk as a full cup of regular coffee, but I'd still encourage you to watch how your sleep responds. What about tea? Green tea and black tea both contain caffeine, though typically less than coffee. Green tea usually has around 25 to 45 milligrams per cup. Black tea can be 40 to 70. Herbal teas like chamomile or rooibos are generally caffeine-free. And there's actually good evidence that chamomile specifically supports better sleep quality. So the practical answer is, switch to herbal tea in the afternoon and evening. Your brain will thank you. And here's something else worth knowing, because I don't want you to walk away from this video thinking coffee is your enemy. The same research that identifies the timing problem also shows something remarkable. 2 to 3 cups of caffeinated coffee per day, taken at the right time, is actually associated with a meaningfully lower risk of dementia. A major study involving over 130,000 people published in JAMA and led by researchers at Harvard and Mass General Brigham, found that people who drank 2 to 3 cups of caffeinated coffee a day had an 18% lower risk of developing dementia compared to people who drank little or none. Let that sink in. Coffee, at the right time, in the right amount, may actually protect your brain. The villain here isn't coffee. The villain is the timing. Let me come back to Margaret. Once we identified the afternoon coffee habit, I asked her to try something simple. Just one change. Move her last coffee of the day to no later than noon. Keep everything else the same. Same food, same exercise, same bedtime routine. Just shift that afternoon cup to morning. She was skeptical. She said she didn't feel like the coffee was affecting her sleep. I told her what I'm telling you right now. The disruption to your deep sleep doesn't always feel like a disruption. You can fall asleep just fine. You can sleep through the night. But the quality of what's happening in that sleep, the depth of it, the restorative power of it, that can be impaired without you ever knowing. She agreed to try it for 3 weeks. In the first week, she noticed she was falling asleep a little faster. She thought it was coincidence. In the second week, she told me she was waking up in the middle of the night less often. She'd been waking up at 3 a.m. almost every night for 2 years, and suddenly it stopped. By the third week, something she hadn't expected happened. She told me that her mind felt clearer in the mornings. Not dramatically different, not like a miracle, but like a fog had lifted just a little, like her thoughts were moving more freely. She hadn't realized the fog was there until it started to clear. Her crossword puzzles felt easier. She remembered things she had to do without writing them down. Her daughter noticed, before Margaret even said anything, that her mother seemed more like herself. Margaret looked at me during her follow-up and said, "This is the one thing no one ever told me to try. One small shift, the same coffee, just at a different hour." Now, caffeine timing is the main issue we're talking about today. But I want to be honest with you. It's rarely the only factor. There are 4 other things that many seniors do without realizing it that compound the problem and make the sleep disruption even worse. Number 1, drinking coffee on an empty stomach. When you have nothing in your stomach and drink coffee, the caffeine absorbs faster and peaks higher in your bloodstream. That means even a cup at noon can hit harder and last longer. Always have something to eat with your coffee. It slows the absorption and reduces the intensity of the effect. Number 2, watching the news in the evening. This one might sound unrelated to coffee, but hear me out. Your brain's ability to fall into deep sleep depends on your stress hormones being low. When you watch upsetting, alarming, or high-tension content right before bed, and the evening news tends to be full of it, those stress hormones spike. Your blood vessels stay tighter. Your brain stays more activated. And if you've also had caffeine in the afternoon, those 2 things are stacking on top of each other, robbing your brain of the deep sleep it needs. Turn the television off by 8 and pick up something calm. The difference in your sleep quality can be remarkable. Number 3, not drinking enough water during the day. This one surprises people. Dehydration affects sleep quality in measurable ways. It causes your body to wake itself up, makes your sleep lighter, and interferes with the very brain processes that need deep sleep to run. Many older adults mistake thirst for hunger, or simply don't feel thirsty the way younger people do. Aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water throughout the day, and stop your biggest intake by 6 in the evening to avoid bathroom trips at night. Number 4, napping too late in the day. A nap can be a wonderful thing for an older adult. Brief rest in the early afternoon, 20 to 30 minutes before 2 or 3 o'clock, can refresh you without affecting your nighttime sleep. But napping at 5 or 6 in the evening essentially resets your sleep pressure. Your brain has less drive to sleep deeply later that night. Add caffeine to that equation, and you've created the perfect storm for another night of shallow, non-restorative sleep. I want to give you something concrete before you leave this video. Not a list of things to eventually think about. A real plan, starting today. Step 1. Identify your last coffee of the day. Look at the clock right now and think about what time you typically have your last cup. If it's afternoon, that's the first thing to change. Step 2. Shift it back by 1 hour. Don't try to make a dramatic change overnight. If you've been drinking coffee at 4 p.m. for 20 years, moving immediately to noon might feel impossible. Shift it back by 1 hour this week, then another hour next week. Gradual changes stick. Step 3. Replace the afternoon cup with something that actually helps your brain. Herbal tea, chamomile, peppermint, or rooibos is a wonderful substitute. It gives you the ritual of a warm drink without the caffeine. There is even preliminary evidence that chamomile specifically supports better cognitive health in older adults. Step 4. Protect your evenings like they matter, because they do. The hour before bed is not just downtime. It's preparation for the most important work your brain does all day. Dim the lights, turn off the news, put your phone down, read something calm. Let your brain begin the transition into the deep sleep it needs. Step 5. Give it 3 weeks before you judge it. Margaret's changes took about a week to start showing up, and 3 weeks to really be noticeable. Your brain doesn't adapt overnight, but it does adapt. And the changes you'll notice, the clarity in the morning, the fewer nighttime wakings, the sharper memory, those are your brain starting to do what it was designed to do. I want to say something before we finish today because I think it's important. Dementia is one of the most frightening things that many of us think about as we get older. And there's a lot of information out there, some of it confusing, some of it contradictory, some of it genuinely alarming. I'm not standing here telling you that changing when you drink your coffee will guarantee you never develop dementia. I want to be completely honest with you. No one can promise that. Dementia is complex. There are genetic factors, lifestyle factors, decades of different influences. But here's what I know for certain. Sleep is the single most powerful tool your brain has to protect and repair itself. And protecting the quality of your sleep, especially deep sleep, is one of the most researched, most evidence-based things you can do to reduce your risk of cognitive decline. And caffeine timing is one of the most direct, controllable influences on sleep quality in adults over 60. You cannot change your genetics. You cannot undo the past. But you can change what time you have your last cup of coffee. Today. Right now. That's not a small thing. That's your brain's cleaning system getting to run every night. That's the waste products that drive Alzheimer's being flushed out instead of building up. That's the difference between waking up foggy and waking up clear. The research published in journals from Washington University, Harvard, and Mass General Brigham isn't theoretical. These are hundreds of thousands of real people tracked over decades. The patterns are real, the connections are real, and the solution for something this significant is genuinely, almost shockingly simple. Move your last cup of coffee to before noon. I want to leave you with something that Margaret said to me during what ended up being one of our last check-ins before she moved to be closer to her daughter. I asked her what surprised her most about the whole experience. She thought about it for a moment and said, "I spent 2 years thinking my brain was going, thinking this was just what getting old felt like. And the whole time the answer was sitting right there in my kitchen, in that afternoon cup I never questioned." Then she said, "The saddest part isn't that I didn't know. The saddest part is that nobody thought to ask. I am asking, right now. I'm asking you to look at your own coffee routine the way nobody else has. Not because I want you to give up something you love, but because there is a version of your next decade where your mind stays sharper, your mornings are clearer, your memory holds stronger, and your brain has the deep rest it needs to protect itself. That version is available to you. It starts with a simple question. What time is your last cup? If it's afternoon, that's where you start. And if you have someone in your life, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, who drinks coffee every afternoon without thinking about it, please share this video with them. Because what Margaret needed most was someone who thought to ask the question. Be that person for the people you love.